Băga mi-aș. Am o vedere, unde că n-a început? Cum mâna a început, ești proști? Nu că a început și pui mei. Cât de tare că nici nu se trimite notifi. Cel mai șmecher lucru. Posibil și imposibil, ești proști? Și mă gândesc că tocmai ce am aici la 5 dimineața. Cât de tare, frate! Mă mai și văd ca dracu, că bate lumina asta handicapată. Ziua perfectă, lol. Mă, da, cum bate în față să-mi bagă piciorul. Salutare, salată. Dacă ai idee, nu prea sunt oameni, că nu s-a trimis notificare, că m-a mâncat pe mine că o să fac prea multe live-uri. Deja prea meșcher sunt. Dar mă, dar nu. Ei, mă, pe bune! A, mă, o fac repede la maxim și cam aia e. Doamne, 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 doamne. Salai, salată. Cred că intră Freddy cât de curând, dar lasă așa. Nu contește. Doamne, 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 doamne. Cu ce doamne e punit? Ii! Am o vere pe bune. Dar să-mi iau mai geans, că e handicapat să mă ia, doamne. Mălău. Doamne, doamne, doamne. Da, mă nebunit, mă închin aici la FNAF 2 să trec, așa am ajuns. Salut, ai sărată. Hai, mă, vere, pe bune! Nu, că ăsta a fost pur și simplu timing de la prost în dragi. Nu altceva, n-a fost altceva, a fost pur și simplu timing prost. Hai. Am o care. Da, Manole e aici. Trimite o notifică. Nu știu, mă, eu de la asta nu văd, vezi, să nu confunzi cu ăla de ieri. Să-mi dea geam scălătoi boni. Mă, dar prea mulți vin deodată, mă. Aoleu. Mă vede, dar nu pot să... Na, bă, nu pot să rotez de ăsta, nu pot. Deci pur și simplu nu pot. Mă vede, că deja mi s-a luat și mie. Da, moții de treabă. Uite și tu, mă, frate, că trebuie în continuu să... Aoleu! De ce mă tot închin așa ca nebunul? Bine-mi pui mei, că nu a ieșit handicapata aia de pape, că mă piși eu pe ea. Pare că nu pot să citesc chat-ul. Da, na. Bă, da! Ăsta! Că nu era ăsta pe hol, nu era pe hol. Nu era mății pe hol. Nu-i corect, mă, așa. Efectiv nu era pe hol. Mă mai și văd foarte mești, chiar ce trec. Să mai zic așa, man. Știu, bra, că a venit Fredelaina de Hauraina, da. Na, și eu ce să-i fac? Mai vine și el din când în când să-și mai facă și el de cap. Hai, are și el o viață, nu? Să sperăm. Sau nu? Ce, mă? De ce n-ai vin stă așa în pământ, mă? Salut, Aineața. S-a stricat jocul, e pe bune. Cum coime să vină două nopți la rând? Balun, boi la 12. Ferească-mă sfântul de așa ceva. Mă, și cum mă gândesc că am ajuns naibii la 5 dimineața mai devreme. Dar na, Fox e un bulangiu. Bulangiu și 3 sferturi. Am mașină de 40 de minute. A trebuit să ajung câteva. What? În vreo 40 de minute a trebuit să ajung. Mamă, frate, vine la cuțitie. Mă, dar mă jur, live-ul ăsta e atât de random, efectiv. Mă, îmi pare scuze, nu pot să citesc acum. Ai, mă, nu! Hai, vere, pe bune! Bă! Să-i... Hai, mă, coaie, bă, dar să-mi bag eu ceva, mă. Aolă. S-a blocat minigame-ul, ce... Așa, mă. Coai, de ce părinții dezvăluie lua despre ei la întâmplare efectiv azi? Am aflat că bunica mea se cunoștea cu... Mamă, lui Ceaușescu. Ce, mă? Mamă, frate, cât de tare. Minigame, bro, what? Dar nici nu vrea YouTube-ul să recomande live-ul, lol. Că se recomanzi, bă, n-am ce să zic, deci chiar nu știu. Nu știu, hai să zicem cartea Into the Pit, poate. Poate. Nu? Am mers la biserică, dar nu vin pe live, bă, ești, mă. Respect să mă mulțam. Nu, n-am vrut să fac nu! Dar putea să mă coste greșeala asta, să-mi bag eu piciorul, dar nu. Băi, eu nu știu ce să zic, să mă aia. Hai mă, coaie, pe bune! Știu, bro, că vine, știu. Foxy ce mă enervează acum, nu altceva. Hai mă, pe bune, coaie! Wow! Wow, frate, wow! Nu m-am săturat eu până peste cap de Foxy ăsta. Măcar acum scap în pui mei de doi deodată. Doi puțești deodată. Și acum nu mai terminat FNAF 2. Nu știu. Nu eram obișnuit cu delay-ul ăla handicapat la mască. Acum m-am mai obișnuit cu el. Doamne, doamne, doamne. Hai mă. Fiți de ce am nevoie, frate. Nu, cred că sare Foxy. Sau? Vei, dar prea mult ghinion am și eu. Mamă, frate, au venit gasul KFC, ești pe ăștia? Foarte tare, ce să zic. Foarte tare, frate. Gasuli, mânca-mi ciocul. Hai mă, frate, pe bune. Nu, dar gen nici nu mai stau așa să mă oftic. Bă, n-am pui mei rost. Na! Ha, mă, vecu, așa odată. Hai, mă, odată, coaie. Bă, câtă tensiune, vei. Prea multă tensiune. Oh! Hai că am făcut-o, mă, și pe asta. Dacă doi buni trece prin office, ține consolul jos ca să... Stai. Ca să-ți dai masca jos imediat după ce pleacă, dar să faci asta doar la doi buni. Păi și asta e pe ea de noapte, mă. Măcar acum am și o castă mai tu, ia ce cine jos pe aici. Hai că-i dau de asta la Caterinca. O să mă naibii pe geam. Măi, greu 10-20 o dată. Ce strategie să fie, mă? Mi se pare insane. Cum ziceam, mie mi se pare insane. Lasă-mă așa. Aoleu. Nici măcar nu, lasă și nici mă... Asta e duitul cu... Dacă nu atunci zic să... Ați strategia lui Game Theory, cum e lui Canal. Poate fac o reacție rapidă acum, așa, la panoramă. Respect, mulți am. Ce nu s-a încheiat de mău? Hai să nu uităm la dăcovenia aia. Dați așa o secundă. Cel mai bun live din lume, ești proști? Ia mă, stați așa o secundă. Bă, frate, doar zice că numele lui e Dave. Păi lasă să văd cum. Ce pula. Oare să întreb? Oare să nu întreb?
Te-ai înscris în programul Casa Verde 2024? Alege oferta Ion și cu doar 3.000 de lei contribuție.
After 9 years and countless theories, the crying child's name has been found. That's right, on screen right now is the real name of FNAF 4's crying child. And by the end of this episode, you're gonna know exactly which one it is. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's just desperately trying to keep up with the FNAF content train. It feels like there's been a lot, right? We had all that stuff from the 10th anniversary, we've had our first full entry into the Choose Your Own Adventure style book series, there's even a FNAF level in the new Funko Fusion game. I swear, if there is lore in this thing, I am going to scream. But while I was busy just trying to keep on top of all of that, someone else decided that it would be fun to add one final slice to my already oversized mountain of lore pizza. Fellow theorist and friend of the channel, Hyperdroid. Now, normally another theorist posting a theory of their own doesn't particularly slow me down. I'd normally finish writing what I'm doing and then I'd go back and watch that later. But this one was different because he claimed he'd done the impossible. He claimed that after years of speculation, he'd finally found the name of the crying child.
What?
That is a massive claim, especially when so many others had tried and failed in the past. But it wasn't all talk. He backed it up.
Mă gândesc că survival-ul chiar e departe de a fi descoperit la mult, cel mai serios.
With some pretty solid evidence that the fan base seemed to love. We were inundated with messages on our subreddit, Twitter, YouTube comments, all asking us one thing. Is he right? And I get it. Hyperdroid is a fantastic theorist, but this particular puzzle has eluded us for so long, to the point where most of us just thought it would never be solved. If he is right and we're all gonna start calling the crying child something other than the crying child, we want to make sure it stands up to scrutiny. Don't want to be caught backing the wrong animatronic horse. So let's go through the evidence he's presented, the methods he's used, and see whether this new name holds water. Ladies and gentlemen, it's can't use Morty anymore, can we? And doesn't look like Matt's going to be interrupting me this time.
Well, o să fac un live special în care mă uit la ok.
Gotta come up with something new. Oh, I know.
Leave your theories
Nu
in
de alta,
the
dar
comments
sunt cam ocupat acum, știi?
below. I'll pick my favorite in the next episode of Trash.
Yeah, that's about right. I guess that's what happens when I let Yossi pick the acronym. Let's give a
Chiar o
trash
să
take
trimiți și eu
then, shall we?
epicile
To understand how Hyperdroid came to find this new name, we first need to recap where the mystery started. The survival logbook. After the release of FNAF 6, we got this book that seemed to just be a kid's puzzle book, but it turned out to be one of the biggest lore clues in the entire series. And I really do mean that. Inside, we have 3 characters talking to us. Mike Afton writing in red pen, a ghostly spirit writing in faded text, and a final spirit altering the physical text of the book. Across several pages, the faded text wrote the words, "my name," and on one page, my name was written on a gravestone. This reflected the 5th gravestone with no name that we found at the end of FNAF 6. Thanks to Reddit user DPowerful1, we realized that you could take the altered numbers on the pages where the words "my name" were found and use those as coordinates for the word search, giving us the name Cassidy, the 5th missing child. This in and of itself was a huge dub for the FNAF community, but it was kind of bittersweet because there was another puzzle in this book that remained unsolved, the Foxy Grid. This grid had faded letters in the first few boxes, showing us that we needed to fill in the rest, and likely meaning we needed more coordinates to figure out a new name. The name of the spirit writing in altered text in the book. Based on Cassidy's questions about the purple plastic telephone, psychic friend Fredbear, as well as a birthday party that was for you, all things seem to be pointing to this final spirit being FNAF 4's crying child. The Foxy Grid was going to finally help us figure out the name of this character. The problem was, nobody could solve it. Matt was literally ripping his hair out for years over this thing. Some people tried to find the name in other places and then reverse engineer a solution. In Help Wanted, the FNAF 4 bedroom was called Norman Bedroom, so maybe Norman? Some people thought Garrett because that's Mike's brother in the recent movie. Some even thought it might be Gregory because he's designed in a similar way to the crying child. But none of them were able to link it back.
Bă, dar nu am menționat și mirifica teorie Evan Afton, coaie, că m-a traumatizat teoria asta, să mor eu, că m-am săturat de oamenii care zic lui Canal Evan. Bine, și eu chiar după clipul ăsta tot o să zic Canal, o să rămână Canal pentru mine toată viața, așa cum și Fongai a rămas pentru mine tot Fongai, chiar și după dezvăluirea numelui Ralph.
Back to the Foxy Grid, and so it just felt inconclusive. A few Reddit users found the phrase "is Springtrap" using 6 Cassidy coordinates and 6 my name. A few Reddit users found the phrase "is Springtrap" using 6 Cassidy coordinates and 6 my name page numbers. This seemed to pair nicely with my name because it matched the FNAF 3 teaser. My name is Springtrap, and implied therefore that the ghostly text was actually Afton speaking to the crying child, whose name would therefore be Cassidy. But sadly, this solution ignores the 7th coordinate needed to make up the name Cassidy in the first place. And so by cherry-picking 6 of the coordinates, it kind of causes the whole thing to fall apart. Finally, the most simple and well-known of the theories was offered by Reddit user Wolfie1740 Kingdom. They matched the questions that Cassidy was asking to the answers given by the crying child in altered text. The party was for you. It was...
Evan Afton nu a avut niciodată logică deoarece numele ieșea... Nu e de la asta, nu e de la povestea asta, e vorba de un tip din cărțile Fazbear Fight pe care îl chema Evan și avea un frate numit Michael. Mare căcat. Oh my god, Evan Afton, what? Poate să fie în următorul live legător. Bă, să văd.
Was for me. What do you see? I can't see. Does he still talk to you? I can hear sounds. This gave them the letters E, V, and A. But they weren't really able to figure out if it was for me. The answers given by the crying child in altered text. The party was for you. It was for me. What do you see? I can't see. Does he still talk to you? I can hear sounds. This gave them the letters E, V, and A. But they weren't really able to figure out the final letter. Another Reddit user, Godzilla813105, did manage to find a solution. They added up the tally marks to give them the final coordinates 39, leading to the letter N and the name.
What?
Tally marks to give them the final
What?
Coordinates 39, leading to the letter N and the name Evan. A lot of people really liked this name and thought it was an interesting theory, but because you had to break the method on that final letter, it was just too tough a moondrop to swallow. Enter Hyperdroid. He too liked the initial method posed by Wolfie, but he agreed that the final letter would need to follow the same method, especially as Crying Child does offer a fourth answer, I'm scared. So he took the same 3 answers to get the letters E, V, and
Ai de viața mea.
A, but rather than skipping the 4th answer, he tried to match it to another one of the questions. On page 41, Cassidy asks, do you have dreams? Initially, that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense given the response, but underneath that question, Mike has drawn a picture of Nightmare. The Nightmare animatronics came from William's experiments on his kids, and it's been theorized that this is what was used to make the Crying Child scared of the animatronics in FNAF 4. That means...
Am o întrebare. În FNAF 3 include nici copilul care plânge și primește masca de Golden Freddy. Nu e ca în cealaltă. Ba da! Cum ar fi fost povestea FNAF să fie în mintea lui... Omul meu zice direct Evan. Bă, m-ați traumatizat cu Evan Afton să mor eu.
means the Crying Child would not only know what this is, but would also be afraid of it, leading to him giving the seemingly non-direct answer, I'm scared. Taking the page number for that question, you can plug it into the Foxy grid and get the letter D, spelling Evad. Then, noticing all the references the book had to reflecting, along with the random mirror next to the word search that's never been used for anything, Hyperdroid reflected the answer, giving them the Crying Child's name, D-A-V, along with the random mirror next to the...
Stați că m-am tâmpit de tot. Stați că m-am tâmpit de tot.
Word search that's never been used for anything. Hyperdroid reflected the answer, giving them the Crying Child's name. D-A-V-E.
Da, nu prea înțeleg de... Chiar dacă Evan nu este numele lui real, eu totuși cred că numele se potrivește. Mai bine decât Dave, dar... Nu știu, mă, parcă nu mai... Parcă nu prea mai pasă care o fi numele lui Cancel. Într-un fel. Bine, dacă ar fi adevărată teoria acum că e chestii, s-a rezolvat multe chestii, dar mă...
Dave.
What?
Everybody lost their frontal lobes over this. But Hyperdroid wasn't done. Not only did he offer the initial solution, he also went classic game theory on all of us and used some real-world evidence. He calls out that Dave, or more accurately the full name David, was the 3rd to 5th most popular baby name for boys between 1970 and 1980. Around the time that he would have been born. I love the fact he did this. Real-world evidence is so useful for theory crafting. It can give you insight into things that the games or books might otherwise not. And given how important this name is...
Numele lui e Dave, lasă-l să gătească. Băi, eu nu mai știu ce să mai cred, aia zic eu, știi? De ce nu mă bagi în seamă, bă? Stai că nici n-am văzut ce ai zis. Este prea fain acest videoclip. Evan, moment, real. Planul cu Fedbear din FNAF 4 e un prieten imaginar că Survival zice... Mă, asta e doar o teorie, mă, nu e neapărat, știi? Mă, nu... Verice, nu e... Numele ăsta Dave nu e...
I wouldn't be surprised if Scott had actually done some real-world research himself into the name. And what's more, I think we can actually expand upon Hyperdroid's idea here by getting a little more specific. So, let's give it a go. FNAF is commonly depicted as taking place in Hurricane...
Wow! Nu contează ce nume avea Cancel. Eu tot zic Cancel, te zic, aia zic, bro. La partea asta e și referință indirectă la clipul tău,
Utah. According to the United States Social Security Administration, between 1970 and 1980, David switched positions a few times, occupying either the 4th, the 3rd, the 2nd, or the 1st most popular spots, higher than what Hyperdroid presented. So we're off to a pretty good start. Although, there is one detail about the Aftons that we never really talk about that could change all of this. Ludwig actually mentioned it when he binged all of the FNAF lore with Matt on stream.
Matt, why are they all sound British. Why are they British? The kids are raised in like
probably the
Utah and they sound British.
When the Aftons speak, they sound British. Likely somewhere from England based on the accents. I'd like to say it's nice to have some British representation in video games, but I'm not really sure this is the one I'd want to claim. Anyway, this detail could throw a spanner into the works, as there's a chance that William named his kids based on what was popular back home rather than where they lived now. So, was David still a popular name in the UK? Thankfully, the answer is abso-freaking-lutely. More so than in America, actually. According to the Office of National Statistics, David was the most popular name for boys in England from 1954 to 1974. After that, between 1974 and 1994, it only dropped down to number 3. So still, this is looking like a pretty solid piece of evidence right now. Plus, we can actually take it a step further. Wanna guess what other name was in the top 10 baby boy names during the 70s? Michael. In the UK, Michael was the 9th name was in the top 10 baby boy names during the 70s? Michael.
Wow.
In the UK, Michael was the 9th most popular name for a boy, and in Utah, it was literally the #1 name every year in the 70s, except 1973, where it was overtaken by Jason.
Oh, ma, nu! Cei care știu referința o știu! Cei care o știu! Bă! Deci dovedește că numele familiei Hafton era popular în Utah și UK. Da, lumea aceea, deoarece FNAF are loc în Utah, dar William e britanic. Păi știu unde dracului e britanic ăsta, mâncați-și. Asta e feța coaie, nu, bă!
Of course, Jason had to ruin the perfect streak. Hashtag blame Jason, am I right? Regardless, again, this seems to be lining up pretty well. But what about the final Afton child?
Dacă există Afton, cum ar fi?
She is also on these lists, although she's nowhere near as popular. In the UK for that time, she was sitting between 20th and 25th most popular.
Bă, dar m-a tâmpit de tot cu istoria,
similar, anywhere between 19th to 24th. That's not really as high as I'd like for it to feel like a solid connection. It isn't super bad. It would be way worse if the names were like 50th or 100th most popular, you know? But if this is being used as evidence for how Scott picked his names, then Elizabeth would likely follow that same pattern. And in reality, she'd have then ended up being called something like Sarah or Jennifer, both #1 names for the time period in the UK and Utah respectively. Therefore, while David was a really popular name between the 1970s and 80s, it kind of feels like a weaker connection. Maybe Scott just thought Elizabeth sounded more British because that was the queen at the time. Who knows? No.
Deci catnap, deci are... Poveste lungă la catnap.
Need to worry though, because that wasn't the only real-world evidence Hyperdroid used. He also mentioned the meaning of the name David. While it was a popular name in both the UK and the US, it's actually of Hebrew origin, meaning beloved. Fun fact, Thomas also comes from a Hebrew word that means twin. I'm not a twin, at least as far as I know. Maybe you could let me know down in the comments if you think you found my name twin. But this theory, though, Hyperdroid claims that the meaning does make sense. He connects the meaning of beloved to the crying child's brother Mike, and how his whole character arc is caused by killing his brother, showing us that his brother Dave was beloved by him. This is where I have to press X to doubt. While, yes, Michael does say sorry to his brother by the end of FNAF 4, the rest of his actions don't really say that he considered his brother beloved. He jump scares him, he actively puts him into an animatronic, he doesn't seem to care about him at all. After that, his actions seem to be spurred on more by his father. Afton sent him down into Sister Location, where he then learnt about Elizabeth and the monster his father was, and so went on a quest to destroy him. Some of that may have
e doar așa de
come from the
gen de culoare. Adică n-a vrut să se înțeleagă asta, e mai mult un mare spre galben, așa s-au unit ăștia să diferențeze, diferențieze de fete așa.
But I'm just not convinced enough to say that Michael considered his brother beloved. Now, that doesn't mean that I think the meaning David being beloved is invalid evidence at all. He may not have been beloved by Michael, but he was beloved by someone else. William. William didn't...
Mă, da, de unde până unde Willy e britanic? Asta nu înțeleg eu, că gen are numele britanic.
Want his little boy gone. He didn't want him to die. He needed to save him. I will put you...
Hai mă, pe bune, aceeași greșeală, bă. Aceeași greșeală,
together.
bă.
We've also believed for a long while that he
Dar Charlie
killed
vorbea,
Charlie in a
bă.
drunken or emotional rage after the death of his own son. That
Bă,
wouldn't
are
happen
accent.
if he didn't care about his kid, if his son wasn't beloved. And by associating that meaning with Afton, other pieces fall into place for the other Afton kids as well. Michael once again comes from the Hebrew language, and it means who is like God. Typically, this is meant as a rhetorical question because there is no one like God, but it could also be interpreted as a
Nu e
statement.
în plan... Nu e în plan mea britanic. Am înțeles tot, ești nebun. De-aia zice că e britanic.
Who is like God.
Așa
William
o
is a man who has figured out power over life and death in this world. He sees himself as a god. And Mike tells us himself that the Funtime animatronics confuse him for his father.
They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
He is like his father. He is who is like God. The same thing goes for the name Elizabeth. It's derived from the Hebrew name Elisheva and means my God is a promise. One of the only lines we get from Elizabeth before she becomes baby is her begging William to let her with baby.
Daddy, let me go to her.
Bă, mă bagă în depresie teoria asta, mă, ne e unii
Baby was made by Afton for Elizabeth. She's
că gen accentul ăla britanic și
annoyed because she is now being denied the thing made specifically for her, the thing that was promised to her by her father, by the God of this world. After that, she disobeyed and got scooped, and so Afton made her another promise, the same one he made the crying child. He sent Michael down into the bunker to put her back together. 3 Afton kids, 3 Hebrew names, 3 meanings that all point back towards dear old Dad. It's like poetry.
Păi da, și Elizabeth are accent cât de cât britanic, deci nu cred că e un accent.
Interestingly, William isn't of Hebrew origin, it's actually Germanic, but it also has an interesting meaning. Resolute protector or strong-willed warrior. He tried to protect Elizabeth. He was resolute in fixing and protecting the crying child after he died. And if you don't call surviving a spring locking strong will, I don't know what else you'd call it. So, from a thematic standpoint, the name Dave does seem to work. Its meaning fits what we know of the character, and it ties into the same themes as the rest of the Afton family. It's at this point, though, I should probably address the Orville in the room. Real-world research is great, and strong connecting themes are fantastic pieces of supplementary evidence. But that's the point. They're supplementary. If the core evidence isn't there to back it up in the first place, then it don't mean squat. It all comes down to the actual method that Hyperdroid used to solve this puzzle. And I'll be honest, when I first saw it, I was a little unsure. Using the faded text of the party was...
britanică deloc familia asta. Da, frate, de asta au accent britanic, știi, mă?
For you.
Nu înțeleg ce e greu de înțeles, amăc. Uiza FNAF în Canal lor că zice tot lor extrem de bine, poate cel Canal. Adică în Canal lor care e Canal, nu atât el. Bă, unor pe bune că mă speri. Să nu moare, dar nu.
Do you see make complete sense for the answers it was for me and
Dați așa. Adică?
I can't see. I can hear sounds technically works with does he still talk to you? Though it's not the cleanest, but I'm scared being a response to do you have dreams? Does...
Bă, mă întreb dacă ar fi pus S-ul de Dragoș aici, ce ar mai zice, bă? E o animație de 3 părți ca să se numește aici. Mă, sigur ne... Are făcută la povestea FNAF cum am făcut.
Like a bit of a stretch. The line only works because there's a nightmare drawing on the same page, even though none of the other questions need context clues from the page. This feeling was also exacerbated when Hyperdroid pointed back to a context clues from the page. This feeling was also exacerbated.
De unde? Stai, mă.
When Hyperdroid pointed back to a Reddit post by the user Ecstatic Marzipan 7 from the GT subreddit. They came up with a solution 3 years ago, so way to represent the GT community. But when I took a look at the original post, they were receiving similar pushback. People were commenting the same things that I'm saying now. However, we theorists are nothing if not thorough. We always dot our I's and cross our T's. Rather than just say, this answer feels wrong and throwing the whole thing out, I wanted to go back through the logbook and do a bit of my own reverse engineering.
S-a întâmplat și mie 30 de minute și unul mai spune din capul. What the hell? De William Afton, bă, ce ai filmat? What the hell? Jur că povestea FNAF a devenit fucked up real. Ce? Adică ce?
I marked down every page number where Cassidy wrote something in the logbook. I then used those page numbers in the Foxy grid to find all the possible letters we could get to see if any of them gave us usable answers that we find all the possible.
Stai mă, asta ce pagină e?
Something in the logbook. I then used those page numbers.
Hai de viață! Trec. Deci alfabetul în continuu, cum ai venit? De ce se oprește random aici?
Was in the Foxy grid to find all the possible letters we could get to see if any of them gave us usable answers that we could then go back and pair with I'm scared. Two of them got ruled out immediately. Answers that we could.
Bă, da, stai mă că mă... Stai FNAF încheia. Lumea era că William bea ceai deoarece britanicii beau mult ceai și bea nasol.
Then go back and pair with I'm scared. Two of them got ruled out immediately. What do you remember and do you miss them? Because they're on pages 20 and 70. You can't go 0 down on a grid, so two of them got ruled out immediately.
Dar nu înțeleg ce legătură au frazele astea.
What do you remember and do you miss them? Because they're on pages 20 and 70. You can't go 0 down on a grid, so they're out. On page 56 we get what's your favorite ride the carousel, but that spells Vave, so
De unde?
that's out. So 3 of Cassidy's questions do give us letters that technically work. Do you remember your name is on page 31. Do any of these toys look familiar to you is on
Bă, mă doare capul, mă, când mai joc ceva horror. N-am jucat mai devreme FNAF 2.
page 42. And did one of these belong to you is on page 43. 31 gives us a C. 42 gives us a W. To you is on.
What?
These toys look familiar to you is on page 42. And did one of these belong to you is on page 43. 31 gives us a C.
Ok, de unde ce? Do you remember? De unde a scos ce-ul, mâncați-aș? De unde scoate litere? Stai că nu înțeleg. Sunt eu prost?
Is on page 43. 31 gives us a C, 42 gives us a W, and 43 gives us a P. Using these letters, you can spell cave, wave, and pave.
Bă, mâncați-aș. Am intrat în caiova. Vezi să nu vii peste mine.
All real words, but not exactly names, especially considering the very normal Mike and Elizabeth. Although, page 43 isn't actually labelled as 43. It's one of the altered page numbers, and it shows 15. So I tried that too, and it gave me Yave, another dud. The only time I got close to another answer was by using page 23, which ironically gives you an N.
Asta mă vecă, mă. Stai cu numele ăsta aici. What the fuck, mă, what the fucking fuck. Bă, mă simt ca la școală aici, păști. Nu mă înțeleg nimic, crezi că mă înțeleg? Bă, dar jur că Eva nu e așa cum se zice despre asta, da. Acum că s-au îndecăcat acolo, n-are de-a face cu orașul în sine, aia e chestia. Copiii vă spun adesea lui Seamă, copiii vă spun adesea lui Seamă dacă puneți cele 4 nume pe card. Bă, nu zic că e nașpa, dar este cel mai periculos oraș din țară. Și de-aia glumesc.
Spelling Evan. Was Wolfie?
Da, dar măcar ăsta mă târgul de Crăciun a fost catalogat ca cel mai ștecher din țară și în top 5 în Europa de ani de zile.
Right all those years ago? Yeah, no. If you thought Do You Have Dreams made no sense with I'm Scared, I feel like Was Your Favorite Childhood Toy a Plastic Telephone is an even worse answer. It would then mean we haven't reversed anything either, and so the mirror in the middle of the book would also remain unused, which isn't...
Bă, să mâncați așa că Asta e logică din aia nebună.
Really ideal. The last page to try was 83, where Cassidy asks, "Is this song familiar to you?" This gives you a T in the Foxy group.
Am 80. Bă, dar nu înțeleg de unde le scot, mă. Bă, ce dracu este cu teoria asta? Bă,
I tried using this as both an alternative for
bă, mă doare
I'm
capul de la...
scared as well as I can hear sounds, just to be sure, but no combination of those letters.
Vai de viața mea. Vai de viața mea. Băi, încerc să procesez aia chestia.
Letters made in
Am căutat o fată să dubleze pe venii la mine în filmul FNAF 3. Nu m-a răspuns fata de 5 ani în Moldova și mi-a trimis vocea pe vocală pe Insta, lol. Bă, mâncați aș veni moldovean ca... Mai dat eroare că eu. Deci stați așa puțin, băieți, că facem schemă. Stați așa o secundă, știu cum stă pe cadă. Unde? Uite-o mai aici. Să nu dăm pe aici chestiile, că de asta mie. Bam! Ia, frate, ia, hai să facem în direct. Hai, teoretizăm în direct, lol. Egal copilul căuț. Ia, mă, unde-i pagina asta cu toate literele astea? Asta a fost bună. Ia, mă, unde-i pagina aia cu toate literele? Asta e, mă, dar nu-s notate. Stai, mă, că fără schema asta nu mere. Fără schema aia nu mere, bra.
name either, which means by process of elimination, do you have dreams does kind of have to be the answer. If it's not, we'd also have to throw out the letters E, V and A too, because we need to find an entirely new method to solve this grid. And at this point, I kind of feel like if there was another method, someone surely would have found it by now. I'm sure that some people still aren't going to be happy with this solution. For all the other questions, Crying Child was just responding to the words Cassidy said. But for this final one, you have to use Mike's drawing to get the full interpretation. As I've already said, that kind of breaks the method. Not as much as finding the N for Evan using the tally marks did, but enough that it doesn't feel satisfying. Except when you stop and look back, Scott actually did the same thing with the Cassidy puzzle. Think about it. At the start, we were using altered page numbers from pages with my name written on them. But as the puzzle went on, that changed. Suddenly, we stopped using altered page numbers and began using other altered numbers from the page, like 7 and 2.
Bă, da, să moiem. Știu că Scott i-a făcut mașinăvat.
2 or 10 and
vezi dacă are tăceneală invizibilă sau lovuc, adică dacă are text. Nu, n-are de asta, n-are.
11. On some pages, we're not
Cum toată igienie printată, nu e nimic a scris. Să știi? Bine, imprimată, de fapt. Deci...
even using altered numbers. One of them, we use numbers written by Mike, a completely different character. And on another, you have to follow Mike's clue to a different page and then use the numbers that are just in the book. They're not altered, they're not written down, they're just there. We were still following the my name part of the puzzle.
Bă, efectiv îți faci toți profesorii praf. Explicăm chestia asta și măcar Jason Afton a fost confirmat.
But the actual number used for the coordinates was different. That rule was being broken. And yet, no one really batted an eyelid when that was pitched out. Why? Because we got an answer that made sense. Yes, the method was a little messy, but clearly it was the correct solution that Scott had planned, given he then went on to confirm the name Cassidy in his cancelled movie. To me, this is the same situation. We finally have an answer that spells a name.
Aici. Okay, deci.
Give us letters that tell you is on page. Gives us as you can. 42 gives us a W and
de aici nu.
4 is on page 43. 31 gives us a C. And did one of these belong to you is on page 43. 31 gives us a C. 42 gives of these belong. These questions do give us letters that technically work. Do you remember your name is on page 31. Do any of these toys look familiar to you is on page 42. And did one of these belong to you is on page 43. 31 gives us a
Păi n-a trebuit gen să doar pe 13.1.
C. 42
Aici doar pe 14.2 ar trebui. Dar de ce rândurile astea?
gives us a W.
Adică nu ar fi un logic gen rândul 4 de aici, rândul 2 de aici.
And 43 gives
Sau stai mă gen
3.
prima pagină.
31 gives us a C.
Ok, primul
42 gives us
al
a
doilea.
W. And 43 gives us a P.
Bă, lasă-mă! O să a apărut un bug FNAF cu clownul ăla din scriptul. Da, mă, te referi la aia stai, nu interactiv novel. Gen grafic novel cu fază, că dacă te referi, ăla e alt clown, e...
P. Using these letters you can spell cave, wave, and pave. All real
Wave, pave.
words, but not exactly names, especially considering the very normal Mike and
Bă,
Elizabeth.
lasă-o moartă, lasă-o moartă. No, cam asta a fost și live-ul cu spun, mă doare capul. Sper că v-a plăcut, dacă v-a plăcut și mai aveți live-ul de gen, nu uitați să pulberați maxim acel buton de like, să vă abonați cu tot clopoțeți ca să fiți atent cu tot ce postez și la prietenii voștri, dacă vreți așa ceva. Follow pe Insta la __, serverele Discord în descriere. Eu am fost mai auzim.